From Atlanta, Georgia, welcome to Fearfully and Wonderfully Me, a podcast for women on leadership and life skills with Rhea Story. Rhea shares powerful life and leadership principles, helping you maximize your potential and become the woman God created you to be.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Fearfully and Wonderfully Me, a podcast designed to help you increase your influence, develop your leadership, and maximize your results. Today, we're talking about small wins and how small wins can lead us to bigger victories. Because I think a lot of us, and I'm one of those people who at some point I thought, you know what, I'm not going to set a small goal, right? I want to set a big goal that sounds glamorous, that gets me excited about it, that I can really feel good when I achieve it. Who's going to bother with small goals? You know, if I want to change my life, I want to set big goals. I want like transformation. And I can remember, thinking about that and wanting to set, hugely exciting, wildly important goals. And what I realize now is that to achieve those goals, it's absolutely fine to have wildly important, great, big, beautiful goals and dreams. But the power to achieve those is created through small wins, right? Small wins can lead to big victories when they are compounded over time. John Wooden said, "When you improve a little each day, eventually big things occur." Don't look for the big, quick improvement. Seek small improvement one day at a time. And that's the only way it happens. And when it happens, it lasts. Like a really good quote there that talks about, we're not going to transform anything overnight. It's not going to be a quick fix. And I think sometimes we get frustrated, right? We want those big, beautiful wins because we want to feel success. We want to feel that achievement. It's glamorous. It's glorious, right? But there aren't going to be any huge, great improvements instantly. But when we achieve small wins every single day forward consistently, transformation will happen over time, and it's lasting, right? It's a lasting transformation. It's not just a short-term fix. I can relate this in so many ways, but we know, intuitively we know that small wins, it's common sense. If we have enough small wins over time, we'll achieve whatever it is we want. If your goal is to lose weight, right? It's easy to say, well, man, I want to lose 10 pounds. But that's not going to happen overnight. But if you just were able to cut down a few extra calories from your day every day over time, sooner or later you will lose the weight, right? But it's being able to stay consistent. But I think that frustrates us because we want, we have a small win and nothing happens, right? And then tomorrow we have another small win and nothing's happened, right? And so we don't feel like there's progress, and so we get frustrated, and then we just throw them out the window and say, well, never mind, I'm not going to try that after all. Right? We are so impatient that a lot of times success is just beyond that one more step. A lot of times it's within our reach, but we're not willing to stretch out and reach for it long enough. So I wanted to share with you how I think about this in my life. And I'm going to give you a recent example. I jumped really quickly into training again for a spring marathon. I really enjoy having a goal, a physical goal to train for, a race, something like that, because it makes me be more disciplined and more intentional with things like my exercise and eating habits. And that's really helpful this time of year. It's colder outside, it's daylight less, it's darker early. And so it's easy to kind of get into the cocoon. And I find I'm not as active, or I'm not as, certainly this time of year with Christmas candies and goodies and all of those things, it's easy to fall into those habits of just have a bite of this and a bite of that. And it's all, it's everywhere, right? So I love having a spring race on my calendar because I know I'll be a little more disciplined with that coming. And so here's what this looks like. The other day, I made a big old pot of kale and quinoa soup. I thought that sounds so healthy and so nourishing. It's cold outside. This is gonna be great. Well, except it wasn't really soup because I put way more quinoa in there than I needed for the amount of broth, and so it ended up kind of just being like quinoa and vegetables. And that was okay. It was really good. It tasted good. It just really wasn't soup. It was more like, you know, a thick, very, very thick stew with almost no broth. Um, and you know what I love is cheese. And cheese is one of the things that, I just think almost everything in the world tastes better if you add cheese. And so I had made a pot of this soup, and I fixed myself a bowl for lunch. And kind of a habit, I reach into the fridge and I pull out the cheese. And I was going to put the cheese on my soup like I normally do. And I thought, what's a small win here? What's a small win here? I know I need to cut down on some of the cheese. That's being a little more intentional with my health. Definitely going to help me, train better and run better if I cut down on just the amount of calories I'm getting from cheese and get more nutrition somewhere else. And so I thought to myself, I'm like, what does a small win look like here? And so, is there something else that I could put on top of my veggies and quinoa that would kind of give me some flavor, but it wouldn't have the same calories and fat content of the cheese, right? That's a small win. And so I was able to figure out something else that I put on there. Sure, it wasn't the same cheesy dish that I had in mind, but it was good. It was much healthier for me, and I felt so much better about eating it. So, my point here is that a lot of times, if we will just find enough small wins, those create big victories. And so, we don't have to get discouraged by thinking I've got to completely transform everything today, right? I just need to focus on what's the small win right here. If your goal is to lose weight or get healthier, what's a small win every meal look like? Maybe it's drinking water instead of sweet tea, or maybe it's instead of diet soda. That'd be a big win. Um, what does a small win look like right here in this moment? Because my Mac always likes to say, don't focus on the mountain, focus on the moment. Because if you conquer enough moments, you conquer the mountain, right? It's easy to look up at the top of the mountain and go, wow, it's a big mountain. But if I just look at the step that's in front of me and the next step and the next step, sooner or later I'll get to the top, right? So think about this as you go through your day today. What does a small win look like for you? Maybe physically, if that's one of your goals for 2020 is getting healthier and maybe exercising more. I don't know. What does a small win look like? I had a small win the other day. I knew I had several conference calls and that would go on for a couple of hours throughout the day. And so I put on my tennis shoes and I had my conference calls. I just got my earphones in and my phone, and I just walked around the neighborhood while I was on the phone for a couple hours throughout the day, right? And that was just a little way that I got some exercise into my day, because it was a day I didn't go run or anything. And so I just needed a small win. I just needed a little bit of exercise. Is there a way I can get a small win worked into my packed schedule that day? So what does a small win look like for you? Maybe it's just, personal growth. Maybe you want to read a book a month, right? Figure out if you want to read a book a month or a book every 2 months, right? That comes down to just a couple pages a day, depending on how big the book is, of course. But a small win might look like just reading 1 or 2 pages a day, right? Maybe it's just a chapter. Maybe it's a paragraph a day. All you need is a small win every single day. So think about the small wins relative to whatever victory you are striving for and fighting for. What are the small milestones that you can set? It's easy to, and we all do it from time to time. We get frustrated. We kind of throw up our hands and say, forget it. I'll just throw it out the window. But that doesn't really that doesn't really give us that feeling of satisfaction and achievement. So, but the small wins, if you get enough of those over time, number one, helps you be more disciplined, because every time you have a small win, you're going to be much more likely to have another small win, right? It's creating momentum towards your goal. It's creating movement. Movement is energy. You don't have to go far, right? Just go. If you're going to drive from here to California, you don't have to drive it all today, but if you'll drive 1 mile and then the next mile. I have a running friend, and he does a lot of sports coaching, and he likes to say, focus on the mile you're in relative to running. Focus on the mile you're in. Don't worry about the whole race. Focus on this mile. And I think that's the same analogy, the same concept, right? Focusing on the moment we're in. Fight this battle. You don't have to worry about all of the rest. Anytime we're trying to change and grow ourselves, it's an uphill journey, sure. But if it were easy, everybody would do it, right? And that's okay. We become stronger as we learn to climb. But if we'll focus on the moments right now, the small wins over time will lead to big victories. Until next time.
Start increasing your influence and maximizing your potential with Ria's audiobooks. Available at audible.com, amazon.com, and iBooks. Please visit riastory.com to learn about Ria's books, resources, speaking, and training programs. Thanks for listening.